Hey YouTube, welcome back to What's in My Tackle Box. Let's get right into it with the main compartment. We're going to start with the top water box. See all the lures in there? Alright, let's start with the walking baits. Here we have a Heddon Zara Spook. I've had decent success with this. Bass and pike, throwing it up shallow. In the springtime, usually in the fall time, they love to go after it. Get a nice top water strike. I always love those. Here we have the Koppers Live Target Walking Frog. Same deal with this one. I like throwing this one near lily pads, just, where frogs like to be. But you can really use it wherever you would use a standard walking bait. Kind of a lower profile, slimmer presentation. Here we have the Heddon Super Spook Junior, so just a smaller version of the spook that we had before. This one's got a little rattle to it. On to the poppers. If I can get them undone here. Nope. There we go. Alright. So here I believe this is a Rebel popper. Kind of a tube-shaped one. Simple design. I've caught so many bass on this thing. Throwing it in kind of sparse weeds in between the weed pockets. Bass will crush this thing. You can see it's kind of beat up with the paint there from the amount it's gotten hit. So great bait. I love throwing this thing. It's got a little rattle too. And I believe this is another Rebel. Could be wrong, but this is a lot smaller. I've actually caught a lot of bluegills on this one for some reason. It's really a big bait for bluegills to be going for, but for some reason, maybe they like that rattle. I'll just go for it. And here we have a Rapala Skitter Pop. Very fun bait to fish. I like to fish this one faster than the other two. I just seem to get more strikes, more success that way. It's got a little feather tail there, which I like. No rattle in this one, just the oh, maybe? No rattle. And here we have my frog style lures. This is a bluegill style one. It's got two hooks there, compresses, so this is for throwing in those heavy weeds and lily pads where the other topwaters will get snagged up in the weeds. Haven't caught anything on this one. It's kind of big, but someday I will. And this is my favorite topwater lure. It's a little live target frog. I tend to have success with the smaller baits, especially with topwater. Being up north, the bass don't get as big, so smaller lures tend to work better, but this thing I've had so much success, specifically in lily pads, throwing it, kind of walking it over the lily pads into a little hole, just letting it sit there for a while. So the bass can come and chomp it. Get those two hooks in them. I've also got some miscellaneous baits in here, just ones that won't really fit anywhere else. And these are my designated pike baits. These number 5 MEP spinners. This one is a double hook one, bucktail. I've had so much success with these. Actually, this August I went up to Lake of the Woods and I caught a walleye, a smallmouth, a pike, and a muskie all on this lure. So this thing can really catch anything. collection, and this is by far my most successful color. For some reason, they like the chartreuse. Here we have, with the steel leader still on it, obviously, a silver number 5 MEP spinner. Not quite as good as the chartreuse for me historically, but still a great lure. And last but not least, we have this tiny little bluegill swim bait. I have not caught any fish on this one, but seems like it would work. Kind of throwing it on beds during the spawn. So that was my top water box. Next, we have the crankbait box. We'll start out top left. These shad styles. So we have a classic Rapala shad wrap. I have a lot of fun trolling these behind my kayak. You can really catch anything on them: bass, walleye. Caught some catfish on this. I even caught a carp on this one time. Fantastic lure, very basic. We have a Storm Smash Shad. I actually found this one snagged underwater. It was in about 1 foot of water. It's got a little rattle. Always nice to find lures when you're fishing, but haven't fished this one yet. Good to have though. Here we have a Googan Squad jerkbait. Looks like it's got a lot of rattles in it. Ooh, that's a fun sound. Haven't taken this one out yet either, but I've heard it works very well, specifically in the fall time. I should have used it this fall, but didn't get out as much as I wanted to. And here we have a little blade bait. I tried this one out for salmon a couple weeks ago and didn't get any bites, but I don't know. I've never really had success using these. What do we have next? We have a Rapala tail dancer, deep diving. I caught a huge smallmouth on this one time. I was fishing in Lake Vermilion, just off the dock in the middle of July. So it was during the mayfly hatch. Actually, yeah, early mid-July. I was not catching any fish because of the mayfly hatch. All the fish were gorging themselves on mayflies, but I was just chucking this for fun off the dock, and I had 2 smallmouth in a row, 2 casts. Smallmouth decided to smash this thing, so that was kind of surprising to me. Here we have a jointed shad wrap. I feel that this works really well in conditions that I would usually fish a shad wrap, but the fish are not biting. They're kind of timid. I'll pull this one out. It has a little bit different motion, and the fish will usually bite this one when they're not biting the standard. This is, I actually caught a muskie on this one time. I was trolling it for walleye behind my kayak, and just got a nice 30-inch muskie. I mean, that's not super big for a muskie, but was not expecting that on the jointed shad wrap. Y'all, let me know if you have any good ways of preventing your treble hooks from getting stuck together. That's always so annoying for me trying to unhook things. But anyways, here's a Storm Hottentot. These things kill crappies. I've got so many crappies on these things, trolling them behind a kayak. Back home in Ohio, this was my go-to lure for just multi-species. Caught a carp on one of these too, strangely, but yeah, they're a pretty good bait. Pretty cheap too. Storm Hottentot. Here we have a big old square bill. And this one actually, if you can see that, the bill moves. I've never seen a bait like that before. I got this in a mystery tackle box, but yeah, this thing is a kind of a fatter, bigger profile bait. I've caught a couple on these, but I don't know. I've never really known exactly where to throw square bills. Usually if I'm going in shallow, I'll use some soft plastics like flukes or something, so I don't know about those. Now we have our original floater. Classic lure. If you can see that, if it'll focus, this thing is torn up from getting hit by pike. All that paint chipped off. This thing has seen its better days, but continues to produce, so I'll always keep this one. Here we have a little baby jointed original floater. This thing is so much fun to fish in little ponds. You can catch crappies, bass, bluegills, really anything on these things. It's just small enough to where panfish will bite it, but I've caught some pretty decent bass on this thing too. Jointed Shad Rap. We have our original tail dancer. The other one was a deep diving. This is a standard one, so for if you don't want to go too deep or fishing 7 to 12 foot water, that's a good one to troll. Here we've got two big old original floaters. The 3 trebles. These things are great summertime pike lures from what I've found. Just casting the stop and go retrieve is deadly with these things. Kind of reel it down till they're about 2-3 foot deep in the water, and they'll slowly rise back up. You keep doing that. When they're rising back up, usually it's pike that I use these. They'll come hit it from the side. It's awesome when you get a big pike on one of these. Then we have our lipless crankbaits. Gotta have the rattle on these boys. These are a good pond bait that I like using too, just burning it over the weeds. I usually fish pretty weedy ponds, so I try to cast this thing out and immediately start burning it to keep it right under the surface, and this thing produces very well in ponds. I have various other liplesses here, but not super interesting, so we'll go on to the next box. Here's kind of a miscellaneous box. We got some trailers here. It's in a kind of a black with blue fleck color. Haven't put these on anything yet, but it looks like a pretty good trailer slash kind of creature bait to throw in near some cover. Here's another trailer. I like to put these on my chatterbaits. Give it a little bit of extra action. These tails actually fall off very easily, which is kind of annoying, so I've gone through a lot of these. And here is a chatterbait with one of those jig trailers attached to it. Good spring and fall lure. Love a chatterbait. Got a little tube jig. I have never actually caught a fish on a tube jig before. I know they're great for smallmouth, but I've just never been in the time and place where I feel confident using one of these, so someday I'll catch one. Got a Googan Squad swim jig, 1/4 ounce. It's got a blue jig head and a kind of moss green and orange color on there, kind of bluegill imitation with the trailer on there. I've caught a couple fish on this one. Again, haven't really felt confident enough to use that a whole lot. Got a red chatterbait. And then we have a couple different kinds of grubs in here. As you can see that, we got a white, a brown with the chartreuse tail, and then a kind of a moss green color. Classic multi-species baits. I'll throw those in rivers below spillways. You can really catch anything on those. Here we have the Senko, classic bass bait. Can never go wrong throwing a Senko anywhere that you are. Weighted hook, unweighted, wacky rigged, Texas rigged. Very versatile bait right there. If the bass aren't biting Senkos, they're just not there. They're not biting, so might as well pack up and go home. Got a green trick worm there. I love fishing these weightless, specifically in ponds. Bass love these things. Got a little drop shot worm. If I ever want to hook up a drop shot, fish some rocks or something, this is perfect for it. It's about 3 inches. Then we have my all-time favorite bass bait, the KBD Perfect Plastics Caffeine Shad. These things are fantastic. I mean, I'm primarily a pond fisherman when I fish for bass, so they don't get hung up in the weeds. They, I don't know. There's not much to say other than these are a fantastic lure. Fish them with a weighted EWG hook or a weightless. I usually go weightless, but I've not had more success with another lure than the Caffeine Shad. Then we have a nice ribbon tail worm here. These are always fun to fish. Anytime that there aren't a huge amount of weeds, I'll throw these. Very slow retrieve. Kind of pick it up and let it sit down. I'll always get it. Half the time when I throw these, it's like on my initial cast, I'll get bit on the way down. I love fishing these. We got just an EWG hook here. One of the weird ones with the extra bend in it. Got some bullet weights. And an egg sinker. Just a random egg sinker. I don't know why that's in there. Here's kind of my miscellaneous box. I'm going to try not to spill anything, but also let you see there. Kind of a terminal tackle box slash little bluegill baits. We got tiny little grubs here. Have these little baby shads. Fantastic for bluegills and crappies. These are so much fun to fish. I'll tie a Palomar knot on one jig head, and then on the tag end tie another jig head to have 2 of these going at the same time under a bobber. It's so much fun to fish. Here we have some floating jig heads. I like fishing these too, especially going from shore. Just casting them out, having them sit about 6 inches to a foot off the ground with a minnow or something or a leech. These are very fun to use. Same thing as the floating jig heads. We have these little line floaters. You put them on your line and it floats your bait up. Pretty self-explanatory. Here we have a couple little miscellaneous lures. This kind of blade bait thing. Haven't caught any fish on this one. Or on this little casting spoon. It still has the hook guards on it, so I obviously haven't caught anything on that, but someday. I don't really know where and when to fish these and what fish you really target with these, so if anybody knows, let me know down in the comments. Then we have a bank sinker. I like to go for catfish, so usually I'll use bigger heavier weights than these, but if I'm fishing in a pond or a lake for some catfish, I'll toss these on the line and go for them. Then we have some baby egg sinkers for trout. Those sound fun. Throw one of these on your line and a swivel and a tiny little treble hook. Put some power bait on that. Perfect for Stock's trout. And our final box here. We have some jig trailers here for the classic jig and pig. Slows down the fall of your jig. Kind of makes bass want to strike if they're a little bit more skittish. Got another trick worm. I have worms in both this tackle box and the other one, so I don't know. Really, I have too many, so they kind of take up two different tackle boxes. There's another finesse style worm. These worms are cool. I don't know if you can see that, but they have a little hollowed out air pocket in the tail there. They're shaky head worms, so when they go down with the shaky head, this part of the tail kind of floats up, kind of wiggles a little bit, so fish tend to like that. Here we have kind of a speed craw type thing. Green with blue flecks, jig trailer. You can Texas rig it or use it as a jig trailer, either one. Another thing along those lines, this is ribbed, so it has like a little bit of a water displacement effect added to it. I like fishing this guy. And here is a little paddle tail swim bait. I usually use these as trailers, but you can Texas rig them too. Fish them alone. Come on. There we go. You have a little, I don't know what this style of jig is called. It has the that flat part on its head. I don't know if you can see that, but I haven't used this one yet, but I'm not a big jig fisherman. Oh, these are kind of getting old. I should probably throw these out, but whatever. Anyways, here we have a swim jig, excuse me. Black and blue, classic color combo. And finally, we have our, oh, that's not it. Drop shot weights. Drop shots are deadly for bass when they're slow, maybe on a cold front or something. If you need to pull out a couple. Drop shot on a reef or a point never fails. I said last but not least on the last one, but this is actually the last one. We got two shaky head jigs right here. They're stuck together. Oh, there we go. One shaky head jig. I love fishing these. Toss them on the bottom, just hop them along with the worm on them. Love it. But that is it for my tackle box. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you want to see next. Yeah, thanks for watching, and catch me on the next video. See you guys.